Hello, and welcome to another episode of Perfect Pairings. My name is Gayanne, and I am coming to you from Melbourne, Australia, where I interview individuals from the Australian knitting community, which is vast, thankfully, so I have lots of content. Before I get started, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land this episode was recorded. It is the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation and the Budjetup and Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, or the Noongar language groups of Western Australia. I've recently returned from a trip to Perth, and of course I couldn't go to Perth without making the most of it and trying to get live with some of the personalities that we love. And last week you'll have seen the interview with Kelly and special guest Danny, a dear friend of mine, over on the Knitter's Suitcase. Please go and check out her podcast if you haven't already. And this week is also super special because I got to go down to Rockingham and hang out with Anna from Stitchcraft and Wizardry, and she just has the most amazing space, and I know she's taking a break from dyeing right now, but she has got some really amazing designs planned and coming out. You will have seen on Instagram, so if you don't follow her already, head over to Stitchcraft and Wizardry and follow to see Anna's exploits. And now I will show you my interview with Anna. Hello, and welcome. I'm here in Perth with Anna Bauder, who you will know as the creative genius behind Stitchcraft and Wizardry on Instagram, but your business is really named
Yarnia, yeah. It used to be Stitchcraft and Wizardry, and then when I opened the shop it was Yarnia, and then we just kind of consolidated them into Yarnia, powered by Stitchcraft and Wizardry.
Fabulous.
So, yep.
So hello.
And
thank you for having me.
Welcome.
I'm so excited to be here. I came over a few days ago, and as you can probably see by the bright light behind us, it is so sunny here and so different than the weather in Melbourne right now. I can't even.
It's beautiful. Yeah. It's definitely worth living here.
Yeah, well, actually, that's my first question. So I've lived in Perth for 6 years.
Yeah.
It was the first place that we lived when we came here to Australia. But how did you come to Perth? What was your path?
Yeah, so I came to Australia in 2012 from Holland, Amsterdam, and I really just came to backpack for a year. I turned 30, all my friends were getting married and had kids, and I was still the odd one that was just traveling all the time. So I decided I'm going to go on an adventure for another year, and then I'll settle down.
That's quite an adventure,
yeah.
backpack a year.
Yeah, so I sold my apartment, put everything in storage that I had, or sold actually most of the stuff that I had, put some of things in storage, and took off backpacking to Australia. Mm-hmm. Never actually backpacked though. So, I flew into Brisbane, drove up to Townsville, which is where I was going to start my backpacking trip around Australia.
Place. Yeah.
And got a job up there and thought, it was just for 3 weeks. And I thought, that's good money. I'll do that. And then never left. So I just stayed there forever.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, and then I moved, eventually after 4 years, I moved from Townsville to Sydney to Canberra to Melbourne to Perth. And Perth is where I then put my roots down, built my house, and decided this is home now.
Mm-hmm. And it is beautiful here.
Definitely.
Not gonna lie. I do love Melbourne, but yeah.
Yeah, as we said before, when we were chatting behind the scenes,
mm-hmm.
Melbourne is I think it feels home to a lot of people because it has a lot of history, a lot of old buildings. The weather is just that little bit different. Like when I lived in Melbourne, it was very like, this really feels like home for the first time in Australia. But then coming to WA and just realizing the amazing weather, the chilled, laid back way of life, the low cost in living compared to, you know, overseas. I mean, I say low, it's still expensive, but, you know, it's better than in Sydney or in Melbourne. I thought, why would anyone want to live anywhere else? So, yeah, definitely a good place to live.
Yeah, yeah. And then, did you have a similar journey with your fiber craft? Have you always been into knitting or crochet?
Always, yeah. I think it's a very European thing. So we start very, very young.
When did you learn?
So I learned really learned at 8, but I started sort of like at 5, 6.
Okay.
My grandma started to teach me, you know, like the basics of like knitting and crochet at sort of like starting around 5 and then like moving up and up. And so at 8 is when I started knitting socks. So that was like the first big project happening at the age of 8. And I've really never stopped. I've always knitted, always crocheted. But back then, hand-dyed yarn wasn't really a thing. It was, you know, scratchy wool from places like Spotlight or Lincraft or whatever, you know, whatever you could get at the time.
I reckon you're, like, in Europe, though, that kind of level of yarn might be a little bit better than what we get here.
Definitely. Even now, like, I mean, you know, when I was 8, we're talking like, you know, almost 40 years back. But I still think now, when I came here in 2012, I was amazed at how little yarn there is here. And like just how little choice and how little... But then, you know, thinking about how hot it is here all the time and the amount of times a year that you can really wear knits or knitted blankets or crochet blankets, you know, that amount of time per year is so small that I kind of get that there's not that much yarn. But at the beginning I was like, whoa, where's all the yarn? Where's all the yarn shops? What is happening? Yeah. But yeah, so I've always been, from when I was little, always been into crafts, yarn crafts. And really, obviously, only in 2019 it became my business. But before then, I've never stopped. So.
And how did you make that transition from crafting to knowing you wanted to have a business?
Yeah. I don't think there was really a step. It was kind of like a more fluent thing. So I actually got into hand-dyed yarn because someone that I knew was always knitting with hand-dyed yarn. And so, you know, she would say, oh, you know, look at this yarn. And I was like, oh, that's really beautiful. And then I'd be like, she'd be like, oh, yeah, I got it from here. And I saw the price and I was like, whoa. You know, for someone that, you know, isn't into hand-dyed yarn, I was shocked at first. I was like, oh, you know, I'm just used to like, you know, the $8 ball of sock yarn from the scratchy one from Spotlight. So it didn't really, it never even, you know, crossed my, I think that was in 2015. It didn't never even crossed my vision, like my life. And so I was quite shocked. And I was like, oh, wow, like I can't really justify that much for, you know. Obviously, that was when I knew nothing about hand-dyed yarn. So then, but because of her, I started looking into these things. And I was like, oh, I actually started doing the maths and going, well, if I'm buying this skein of hand-dyed yarn for $30, I get 400 meters. If I buy a ball of yarn at Spotlight, I pay $15, but I only get 120 meters. So I have to buy 4 of those to make up the meterage of, you know, and actually working out, well, hang on, hand-dyed yarn is not actually that expensive. It's actually pretty much on par with some of the yarns, or cheaper as some of the yarns that you can buy in a commercial yarn store. If you calculate it by the meterage, which is the most important thing to do when you're, you know, making patterns. You know, it says, oh, use 3 balls. Well, no, you don't need 3 balls. You need a certain amount of meters, because 3 balls could be 50 meters or 150 meters. You don't know. So, started looking into all of that. And then, and it kind of just snowballed from there. So I started buying hand-dyed yarn. Then I realized that all of the colors that I like, I can't really get hand-dyed yarn here in Australia, in kind of sort of like, I'm very like bright and colourful, and I like neon and poppy colours and stuff. And I found that a lot of the dyers that I knew here, while they make absolutely beautiful and stunning yarn, it's quite muted or earthy tones, and that just wasn't really what I was looking for. So then I ended up having to buy from overseas, and that's then how I stumbled into making my own, learning how to do my own, and then really it's kind of like a completely separate hobby that you start, because you start buying different dyes, you start buying different yarns, and then you, oh no, I don't like this base, so you buy another base, and it just kind of gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then in the end I had a fully equipped dye studio with hundreds of dyes, and like it just kind of
Well, when you're at that point, then the next step to selling is not a bridge that far.
Exactly, and then because I was dyeing so much at the time then as well, because it was fun, and I was like, oh my god, this is so cool to just create all these colors, and make, whenever I'm having a new project, I can make the yarn that I want to, I can make exactly the right color for this, what that I have in mind for this project. And so I started doing more and more, and then obviously I can't use everything that I make, and it just kind of became a thing. And then I had an Etsy store for about a month.
Okay.
And then really quickly realized that is not at all a good business model. Very high fees, very limited what you can actually do with your own branding and things like that. Like it really wasn't a very good business model at all. And then calculating how much fees you pay and how that translates to having your own website was actually better. Definitely better value for money having your own website, and so on. And so it went really quickly. So after a month already, I closed Etsy and had my own website, and then it just got bigger and bigger from there.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And now you've gone from not only dyeing, but you do design work as well.
I kind of always have. I just never used to sell it. I just uploaded it for free on my Ravelry, and everybody could just download it. So I've already for years I've designed socks and other bits and shawls and stuff like that, and they're just free on my Ravelry to download. But
I love the polka dot socks, by the way. This is such a cute polka dot sock pattern.
Yeah, I love
sock knitters.
Pippi Longstocking socks. Yeah, I love polka dots in every way, shape, or form in my life. So, they're probably one of my favorites, actually. Yeah, the polka dot ones.
It's super versatile as well for the one color or 6 colors or whatever.
And that's actually why I designed them, because I had so many scrappy bits. Because when you're a dyer, you have to knit up samples, but then you are left with all of these leftover bits of yarn that you can't really do anything with. It's not enough to make a pair of socks, but it's so I ended up designing a whole heap of things where I can just use my scrappy yarn, and they were one of them. So you can have like as many different color polka dots as you want. You could technically use 50 different dots in 50 different colors if you wanted to. So definitely one of my favorite patterns. But so I've always designed my own stuff, and really just most of the times really written it down for myself and then just chucked it for free on Ravelry. But like the bigger things, I mean, because you're a tech editor now, how much effort and time and how much money goes into creating a pattern. It's the hours that you put in, it's the yarn that you use, it's the tech editor that you pay, it's all that kind of stuff. And so like for the bigger patterns, you do want to sell them, because otherwise you're never going to get anything out for all the work that you put in and the money that you pay. So I don't even really look at the time that I spend, because I do enjoy it, so I don't really class it as work to make the pattern. But definitely like the yarn that you use, the tech editor that you pay, like there's actual physical outlay of money to create a pattern,
and there's time involved in the design and the layout as well. If you're doing that yourself, if you are not outsourcing that, or if you're outsourcing that, it's just additional expense.
Exactly. And you can actually see where that happened as well, the switch with me, because I like the initial layout of my, all of the free ones on Ravelry, I just kind of had like a Word document, and they all have the same template. They're all like the same, designed the same, but it's just a Word document, with a little bit of a photo here and a logo there or something. So it's nothing special. And then you can really see like where that switch started of like having a full branded pattern layout, which is what I now have. It took me over 2 months to actually design that, and it seems like a long time, but there's so much that goes into it. You know, like you start designing this whole branding, this whole template of stuff, but you keep changing things because of, you know, then you added the page numbers, but they don't really work on that background and this and that, and I'm not a digital designer. You know, like I'm not a what's a job?
No, digital design.
Is it digital designer? Yeah. So it takes me a while to, you know, come up with all the tech parts and, you know, make them fit together. And, you know, it's easy for me to knit stuff, but it's definitely not as easy for me to do that on the computer.
No, 100%.
So, yeah, it took me almost 2 months to come up with a design that I actually liked. And then I thought, okay, yeah, I'm happy with this. This is how I'm going to move forward with my designs. So I'm still now going to have to take all of my old ones and put them into the new template, which again is going to take me weeks and months probably to complete, because, you know, it's just something that has to happen next to everything else in life. So so it's a lot of time and effort that goes in, and so you do kind of want to sell it to at least get something out of it. And I think as well, you know, I always buy patterns. I buy a lot of patterns. I probably have more patterns than I have lifetime left to complete.
I'm getting there.
But I always see it as I want to support the people that, you know, that have put in that effort, that have put in their time, their money, their creativity to create these beautiful patterns. Because a lot of times, like with everything else in life, we always want to, you know, we always want it on cheap. We always want to save, there's a sale, let's buy it now because it's cheaper. It's not actually cheaper, because I actually don't buy patterns on sale, for example. I buy them when they're at full price, because just because that person has put a sale on doesn't mean it costs them any less. It still costs them the same amount of money and the same amount of time. They're only giving me a discount, which means it's just less money in their pocket. It doesn't actually, they haven't saved anything. They're just selling it for less to me. And so I always buy things when they're not on sale. I pay full price, because I always want to try and support them. I'm the same with yarn. Like, I generally don't buy yarn on sale. I just, like hand-dyed yarn, I will buy it at full price, because again, you know, same with the pattern. It didn't cost the dyer less time, less dye, less for the base. They didn't get the base cheaper. It still cost them the same. The sale just means there's less money in their pocket again. So that's why I always try and just buy full price. And yeah, that's like the same with my design. So it kind of just moved from just chucking out free patterns to, okay, well, I am actually putting a lot of time and effort and money into these, so I do want to earn something for that for that effort that I'm putting out.
I think that's really understandable. There's a lot of work that goes into pattern writing, producing the sample, all the different steps, tech editing, and even just uploading it to a platform that like, think about all the different hats that you wear throughout that process. It's
exactly. And you know, that's the same as well with, like, for people to buy it off the website. I actually pay 5% of what you get for the pattern already disappears just going to the website for the sale, you know? So there's like so many different steps along the way where money actually disappears from your pattern. So you put a pattern out for $4.99, but really realistically you're only getting, like, you know, $3.50 or something in your bank account after that, and from that you then still have to pay the yarn and the tech editor and all of those things. So there's a lot of things that we don't think about in the it's a
real business, and you've got to have some I guess business savvy with that as well.
Exactly. And it's the same with hand-dyed yarn. So, you know, I obviously had the luck that I learned all of this through the yarn business and the yarn store, the hand-dyed yarn. It was a learning process, you know, learning all of these things. But now that I'm, you know, putting out more patterns and stuff, I use that same thought process for when I purchase things, but also for when I put out my work, you know.
you're taking a bit of time out from dyeing right now, but your design work has escalated greatly. Do you want to show some of the things that you're working on right now?
I can. All right, so this one you are very well aware of because Gay is the one that tech edited it for me, graded it for me. So this is the newest design that is out for testing at the moment.
I think this color is glorious.
Yeah, so I don't know if you can see. Yeah, you might be able to see it a little bit. So it's fingering weight yarn held double with Suri lace. And it's so squishy, isn't it? I know, I love it so much. I keep rubbing my face in it.
I know, I want a whole sweater made out of that.
Yeah, so I just do everything with this now. I'm absolutely obsessed with it. I'm a very, I struggle with wool.
Yes.
That was one of the things as well, why I started doing my own yarn and everything, because I can't do itchy. I get very itchy and scratchy, and so I needed a base that's 100% super duper soft and is not going to irritate my skin. And I always had that problem with fluff, so I cannot stand mohair. As much as I love it and as it looks beautiful, I cannot have it on my skin. It drives me mental.
Suri is really having a moment, I think. Yes. Lately.
It's because it is the perfect alternative to mohair, to people that get itchy from mohair. Baby Suri is just, there's nothing itchy about it. You could literally just rub your face in it and just, it's absolutely magnificent.
You can have one sleeve and I'll have the other.
Yeah, but you still get that fluff effect that you get from mohair. And what I find as well, apart from it being so much nicer because it's soft, it fluffs less.
Oh,
you know,
it
actually, it sheds less fiber. So that might just be a personal thing, but because it still does. Like when you knit with it, you're like sort of covered in pink for a while. Like when I was doing this on the cruise ship, I was wearing a black outfit and I was sitting like by the pool knitting, and I got up to go to the bar to get a drink. And I looked down, and it was just my black outfit was just like covered in pink fluff. And I thought, oh God, people are gonna think I'm a weirdo. But it does stop after a while though. It's just like at the beginning. But I think it's still less than mohair. Like it still sheds a lot less than mohair does, and it's just so much more softer. So this is it hasn't got a name yet, and I'm actually going to put out a poll on Instagram, so you guys get to vote on what the name is going to be, because I can't decide. And I'm normally always really like nerdy with my names, but I just could not come up with anything. So it's obviously, as you can see, it's basically 2 sleeves with a turtleneck. The reason I designed it is that I wear a lot of these. So I wear a lot of dungarees, very Aussie. And also in winter, summer, whenever. But in summer I'll wear them just with singlets. But in winter, obviously, it's too cold. But so I needed something, but I don't want to put a jumper over the top because that totally defeats the purpose of wearing dungarees. So I needed something that was covering my arms and my neck, but didn't take away from my dungarees. So that's how this one happened. And so that's how I designed this one. But I could not for the life of me come up with a name. And so I put it out in my Brains Trust group chat with my family, family and friends. We've got like a group chat, and they come up with the most hilarious names. I think one was the HAS. It's like the half-assed sweater because it's missing the actual sweater part. And so they came up with the coolest names. One was something like armless or something like that. I'll come up with all the names and I'll put them out in a poll, and then people get to vote on, or maybe so you can suggest another name. I did that last time with my last design that I released, and I let customers pick what they wanted to name it. I put all the names out that were suggested, and then people got to vote, and then that's how it ended up, the pretty titty top. So yeah, I hope that we can come up with a really cool name for this as well. So it's out for testing at the moment. The sign up is open for testers, so I haven't closed it yet. And then, yeah, it's your work.
That would be fun.
It all rests on your
Got
work.
a little bit of math left. Just a little bit of math left on that one.
Yeah, and this is why I was saying before when we were chatting in the background before we started recording, I'm so glad that Gay has like a brain that works that way, because I tried so many times to do grading myself, and it just, my brain can't do it. I can knit anything, and I can crochet anything, and I can, anything like that, and I can do it for myself, like I can make it fit and everything, but then having to do that maths, it's not me, just not me. And this is one of the other patterns that I'm working on at the moment.
This is beautiful.
Turning it around.
Just beautiful, and I think it's
just like
really...
it doesn't really come up in the camera,
way.
but yeah. So this is a colour work pattern. It is a crop top with no sleeves, or like a, what do you call it? A cap sleeve, yeah. And it includes all the rolls, which is what we talked about before. We love the rolls. It's the nicest, like I think it's the nicest edging for any make when you have that roll. It's very soft, it still shows the underneath, and I think especially in a colourwork sweater, I'll just turn it inside out, because you have all the floats, but they're so fine that the inside looks just as pretty as the outside, and when you have rolls it kind of comes out. So that is another pattern that will be going to Gay soon, and then you can she will do her maths, and then there will be testers for that as well. So
I think that will be, this one is really one for the hand-dyed yarn lovers, because it's 2 strands.
Yeah.
You can mix
anything and everything. So this sample here, for example, already uses about probably...
Can I guess?
So, yeah, yes, absolutely. Go.
I think you probably have at least 8 bits in there right now.
Yeah, more even. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think there's probably about 16 in here at the moment. 16 different colorways that we, because you change as you go. So you, I've already sewn in the end. See, I was very efficient. I should have left them out so we could have showed you.
That's very efficient.
Yeah, I'm a like do your ends as you go kind of person, because nothing worse than getting to the end and then having like 150 ends to weave in. Doesn't work for me. But yeah, so you basically, you can see how I've woven on an end here. So you really change color whenever you run out. So I just basically, I keep all my scraps. And sometimes they're only like 2 grams, 3 grams. I never throw anything out. And if they're not big enough, you can see here in the back, I collect them in jars. If they're not big enough to use for anything else, so these ones are all figure 8 ties, I literally just stack them in a jar and keep them all around the house or here around the studio. But yeah, so I keep all my scraps, even if it's just 2-3 grams, and this is using that kind of yarn. So I literally just join the next color, the next scrap, keep going with that until it runs out, then I join the next scrap. So you end up using pretty much all your stash scraps for a pattern like this, which is one of the reasons I designed it, because I love that, because I have so much scraps.
I feel like that's also having a moment this year, is like knitting from your stash, or knitting from knitting down your stash. Like lots of people are having that kind of year. Yeah,
although there's something to say for that, because I actually did a reel at the beginning of the year exactly about that. It's always like, while that's really fun, and you know, it's really like, we always, oh yeah, let's all knit from our stash. If you do that all year round, that dyer that you love so much isn't going to be there next year, because you didn't buy anything from them that year. So I always feel, yes, it's a great idea, and you know, yes, we should definitely be using yarn from our stash, but we should still remember the repercussion that has for other people. You know, it's just like with designing, like with yarn, you know, every time the economy goes bad, or like every time things get tough, things get, you know, food gets more expensive or whatever, like yarn and knitting and stuff like that is stuff that falls off first, because it's a want, not a need. But that does mean for businesses that actually live on that, you know, and I'm not talking about a dyer that does it at home in, you know, in their kitchen and then sells a little bit just to make some money on the side. I'm talking about businesses that actually live from their income that they make. It is tough for them. You know, it is tough when all of a sudden everybody has on the 1st of January that, you know, that New Year's resolution. Oh, this year I'm going to knit from my stash. I'm going to, you know, go stash diving and I'm going to, that's great. And we want to do that. But if you just do that, we're not going to be here next year because we live from this. We need you to continue with your hobby. We need you to continue. And I'm not saying, you know, buy $2,000 worth of yarn every month that you can't afford. But, you know, it's just that little continuous thing. So a lot of my customers actually, when I posted that reel, a lot of my customers actually go, man, I never actually put these two things together. I never thought for a second how me only knitting from my stash kind of affects the life of my favorite dyers that I buy yarn, they used to buy yarn from.
That's like a trickle-down effect,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So maybe there's, even if, I was just going to say, maybe there is some room for a bit more curation of our collections or enhancement of our stashes, if you're still calling it a stash.
Exactly.
But
and you can do both. Like, you know, it's not, we would never say like, oh yeah, you only have to buy hand-dyed yarn and you have to buy, you know, $1,000 a month. It's like you can do both. Like I do both. I use all my scraps. I never throw anything out, but I still buy new yarn all the time. Like I've just made like a huge purchase at Rainbows and Sprinkles, for example, because she was like had this new yarn. I was like, yeah, I had to have it. Can't not have it. So then I just bought it. But it doesn't make me feel bad because I support her or any other dyer, you know, when I buy from them. So it makes me feel happy. The purchase makes me happy. And it makes me happy that I supported the business of someone else. So,
well, and I think you also, we were talking before about whether we're a process knitter or a product. No.
For finished object.
Finished object focused. And you're very much a process knitter. So then you're getting enjoyment and joy out of the yarn during the process of knitting itself. So however many hours it takes you, you get to look at that gorgeous yarn.
Exactly. And I actually have yarn in my stash that I know I will never use. So there's yarn that I've bought from overseas where I didn't know, I hadn't bought from that dyer before. And so I saved up money to make one big order, because I always try and order a lot when I buy from overseas just to make it worth the shipping and everything.
The shipping,
yeah. And so I saved up and I bought like a whole bunch of yarn, and it came and I opened the package and it was so stunning and I was so happy, and I touched it and I was like, nope. I'm never going to use that, because it was not what you know the kind of stuff that I can wear and like that I can put on my skin. The colors and everything was absolutely stunning, but the base was just not soft enough for me to be able to wear. But I didn't mind that, you know, like obviously in the first instance you go like no, but a couple of seconds after I was like, it doesn't really matter, because my stash is actually at the end of my bed in this massive cupboard, and so every morning I wake up, it's the first thing I see is my yarn. So I wake up, I open my eyes and it's all there. And that makes me happy.
I think I've got the solution.
Yeah.
Put it with a Surrey.
Yeah. True.
Right?
Maybe that will work, actually. Yeah, maybe I should design something.
Swatch that.
Swatch that. Yes. Very clever idea. I like it. I like your thinking.
Solutions. You're a solution.
And no, you're a solution person. I love that.
Problem solver.
Yep. And I mean, you know, we call them problems. It's still yarn though, and that's why I'm thinking. Is there any
yarn a problem?
No, exactly. The only problem with yarn is not having enough, but there's never, you know,
or not having enough time to use the yarn you've got.
True, absolutely. And that's another thing that I'm really enjoying now. That's why I'm enjoying and having so many designs that have been living in my head for so long. I've actually now got the time for that, to let them come out, to let them come through my hands and like just knit more again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're better off for that.
I hope so.
I mean, yes, we have to forego some Yarnia yarn, but we'll take the designs.
Yeah. Thanks.
Well, so what's your favorite craft? Can you pick a favorite?
Definitely knitting. That will always be my go-to. While I learned knitting and crochet both at the same time, and I'm proficient in both, I will always go to knitting first. The reason I think though is that I love making things that are usable and wearable, and I don't like crochet wearables.
Yeah.
Only because they're very holey. Unless you're using like a linen stitch or whatever, you know, they do have a lot of holes in them. The stitch is a lot rougher. There's not a very good drape in crochet either. It's kind of more like a blanket thing for me, crochet or amigurumi. Dead set, amigurumi is the best. But yeah, so that's I think why I would always tend to knit rather than crochet, because it's just, I don't know, it's just for me it's more user friendly, so it gives me more opportunity to use it when I've made it. Like I've got a lot of amigurumi, you know, here around the studio and at home, but it just stands there and it's pretty to look at, but it's not like I don't use it every day. It's like I enjoy it every day because I look at it, but like my knits I actually, you know, I can wear or I can put over me when it's a blanket, or you know, it gives me that that usable joy every day. So, and it seems, so I've taught Lily, who's 10 now, she started learning to knit and to crochet when she started crochet at about 4 to 5, and I thought we'll start with crochet because it's only one tool, it's easier to do, and it was driving me mad. I could not for the life of me get her to understand the whole crochet thing, and I thought, and she was like, Mummy, I want to learn knitting too, and I was like, oh, I don't know. Like, I'm dying teaching you to crochet. How are you going to go with 2? You know, you can't handle 1 hook. How are you going to go with 2 needles? Like, you know, I thought that was really just my panicky thought process. And she was like, but I really want to. I was like, okay, we're just going to go for it, I guess. She literally picked up those knitting needles and off she went. She just knitted, didn't even need me. She just went like, la, 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 here, first scarf. And I was like, how? How is that possible?
Okay, I can tell you how. Because
tell me.
Cannot crochet.
Oh, really?
Like, I can knit miles, right?
Yeah.
But it's something about just having the one in your hand that I cannot, like, get the tension or whatever. But when I have the 2, I'm in control. I'm motoring like this.
Look,
just like this.
Yeah. So maybe that's it. Yeah, because I was like, it must be a genetic thing because I channel knitting, you know, or I will always have my go-to knitting. Maybe I just kind of gave that to her somehow in my genetics. I don't know. But maybe it's just a thing, like a, Do you think it's a brain thing or a motor skill thing? Why do you think it's...
Oh, maybe it's a motor thing. Because you have the 2 solid sticks in your hand. Yeah. Versus 1 stick.
And just fluff.
And a yarn.
Yeah.
Right? And then you've got to somehow, like, tension with 1 stick rather than... while you're holding 1 stick rather than 2. Yeah. Maybe?
Yeah. But see, it's funny because a lot of people that crochet and then learn how to knit, they... always say, oh, crochet is so much better because, you know, if you make a mistake, you just undo that 1 stitch until, you know, whereas like undoing and knitting is so much harder because you've got to pick up all these stitches again and this and that. So a lot of people say crochet is easier. I personally don't agree though. So it's definitely either a motor and brain maybe thing that we,
What do you think? Is it a motor thing or a brain thing? Maybe leave a comment.
Yeah. Good idea. I'm really interested in that because
we'll have a poll.
Yeah, we have a poll. Yeah, and I would really be surprised if we are not pretty much 50-50 on the poll. Yeah, I think it's going to be like a 50-50 split as to what it is. Yeah,
or maybe it's like a 30% because you've got knitters people who only knit,
Yeah,
people who only crochet, and then a group of both.
Yeah.
Who can do both.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, because like with me, I don't find either easier or harder. So the reason I have a preference is because of the finished object. So not because of the craft.
Yeah.
Because I do Tunisian as well, for example. And, you know, same thing. Like I can do that just as easy as knitting or as crochet. But my preference goes to the finished object because knitting just flows nicer and it's just more wearable and stuff. So, yeah, so maybe there's a 30-30-30. There you go.
Let's see.
Yeah, let's see what happens.
But speaking about objects, can we just talk about this gorgeous sweater? Because I know it's from one of your favorite designers.
It is, yes. It's by Sozu Knits, Susanne Sommer. And it was actually one of my first brioche, not my first brioche projects, but my first big brioche projects. So while I've knitted forever, brioche has always been this thing that I kind of never really got my head around. I just found it, I don't know. I did like a workshop thing with it and I just couldn't, I don't know, my brain just couldn't do it at the time. I don't know why, it just, I just couldn't do it. I didn't even really get past the between the I-cord cast on and like the first two rows. I just kind of, my brain couldn't do it. And then this pattern came up. So I left it because I was like, okay, maybe that's just not for me. Maybe I'm just not meant to do brioche. I just can't, because I can do anything else. So why couldn't I do this? I just couldn't understand it. And I was like, you know what, naughty corner, I'm just not going to do it. And I'll see one day. And then so one day this pattern came up and it was a cowl. And I just loved that pattern. And I was like, and it was brioche. And I was like, oh, I just really want to do this. It just looks so good. And why can't I do this? I need to do this. And I literally smashed out this cowl. So this pattern actually taught me how to knit brioche because I wanted this so badly that I wanted this cowl so badly that I was like, no matter what I have to do, I will get this done. And then, so I finished that cowl and absolutely fell in love with brioche. And then I just ended up doing brioche all the time.
I know, I love it too.
And yeah, and so this is one of my, because the cowl was small, it was kind of like, yeah, I did this now, but am I good enough now to do something big? I kind of was a little bit apprehensive, but then I saw this pattern and I was like, okay, I really, really want to do this. So I ended up doing this cardigan and shrug really. It's more of a shrug than a cardigan.
She's got some beautiful sweaters like that.
Yeah, she's such a talented knitter. And yeah, so I thought I need to do this. So, and I actually ended up dyeing the yarn for it. Again, it has the suri in it.
I can see the halo.
So it's got undyed suri in the sleeve, with a tonal, and then it's got the reverse side. So this is Luna's Loopy Easter hat, and this is New York, so it's like a grey on the back. And the sleeve I just matched actually. That was one of my stash busting. So see, this is how I like stash busting. So I made yarn to the project that I wanted, but then I stash busted for the sleeves and the trim with a one skein that I had. Because you know how we often do that one skein thing where we like, oh, hand out yarn, you know, this is so expensive if I buy like a whole project's worth of thing. Yeah. But I really love this colorway, so I just buy one. Very silly idea, because what do you do with one other than socks? And socks is really, while I love socks and I knit socks all the time, they disappear in your shoe, and then you don't really see them so much, so you don't really show off that beautiful yarn that you bought. And so I actually never buy less than 3. So that's my rule. If I can't afford 3 at the time, I don't buy it. I just buy 3 because I want to have enough to actually make something.
I do like to get a sweater quantity when I can.
Yeah.
Like that's... Because otherwise, there can be disappointment for future me.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, definitely. And you know, actually, we had that problem yesterday. So, Georgie, my bonus daughter, we dyed yarn before, like I closed down the studio. We dyed a whole bunch of yarn for ourselves to keep in stock for our next upcoming projects for the next 6 months until, you know, I start back up. And so she had dyed 3 skeins of fingering weight and then 3 skeins of sori to use together. And then yesterday we wound them and we went on Ravelry to find patterns for her to do.
Oh, no.
And literally every single pattern that she found and wanted to do needed one extra skein. And obviously she didn't have that one. So it's a real thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's a real problem. And this is how that happens, that you want to start a new project but you have to go yarn shopping because you don't have the right yarn. It happens because you didn't buy enough in the first place. So this is how I stash bust then. I made yarn to match all of this, but then I stash bust it for a matching yarn to go with the rest. So that's a good way.
Beautiful effect.
Thank you.
I love it.
Yeah, I love it. And what I love about her patterns as well is that really often you can actually get away with one skein. So like this pattern is like one skein of I think it was 2 skein of the undyed suri. And then but 1 skein of the fajardo, which is the blue, and then 1 skein of the Luna and 1 skein of this. It was enough because it has all these different patches.
And the panels.
It makes up, the panels make up just enough for 1 skein. So that's what I like as well about her.
Well, and it's fun because if you have these kinds of colors, you can just mix and match.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
There's the 3 or 4 skeins versus 1 skein purchase, but I reckon it would have to be quite serendipitous.
Yeah,
to have.
Definitely. And so the other pattern actually that I'm working on right now is also for exactly that reason. So it uses up a certain amount of yarn, but so you can have enough so you can use it either with minis or with leftovers or whatever, the way it is designed, because same thing again, either you have scraps or you have these 1 skein things that you then can't have enough of. So it mixes, having one solid color where you can just, if you can afford 2 skeins, basically you just buy 2 skeins, but then the rest of the pattern you can make up of other leftovers or scraps or minis or whatever. So I think that's really important because I do like using everything. Yes. I do like using every little bit of my yarn. And sometimes I will, because the girls love pom-poms, sometimes if I do have something left over and it's not fitting really into any of my scrappy projects or whatever, I'll make a pom-pom, out of it. I want to use everything.
Can I just say, I used to have pom-pom earrings.
Oh, I love that idea. Yes. Oh, that is a brilliant idea. So I saw someone have like granny square earrings the other day and I was like, oh.
Fun.
But pom-poms. That like combines the best out of both worlds. Yes.
I must find
that would
those.
Be good. Yeah, you should put a picture, edit a picture in here, find them and edit a picture in.
I'll see what I can do.
I'll see what
I might have to make some.
Yeah. Because really, and that's just really showing again, it's another craft because you're making jewelry, but it still combines with the yarn, with the yarn craft. That's what I loved about the those granny square earrings as well. And like, this combines like a new craft with crocheting or just yarn craft in general.
Yeah,
love it.
So who are your if you're not dyeing your own yarn, who are your kind of favorite dyers?
Yes, I have to admit that I don't buy a lot of yarn in Australia. Not because of the dyers, but because I really am into strong and bright colors. I mean, my customers, that's what they came for, is, for all the bright colors. And I find that even though we have amazing dyers here in Australia, most of the times they're pastel colors or muted or earthy tones and things like that. And I can't actually wear a lot of those. And because I make a lot of wearables, I need bright colors. I've got olive skin, Italian mama. So I've got olive skin. So there's a lot of colors I can't wear. I definitely can't wear any washed out colors like pastel colors. Ooh, make me look green. So this is probably the most pastel I can go, and really only because it does actually have bright pops and darker colors in it. So I can't wear any sort of like yellows, or even reds are tricky at times. It needs to be like a, like what you're wearing, like a Merlot kind of color
with a bluer base.
Yeah, exactly. Because anything else just makes me look green and sick. So while I love their colors, I can't wear them, and so then there's no point in me buying it. I did actually buy quite a lot from Karina, from Louis and Lola, because she's one of my favorites.
Yes.
But it's still sitting in my stash only because like I need to find something to make with it that I don't have to wear close to my face, and you know, so it's kind of like this. But I still wanted it because I loved it, so I bought it.
I just
without knowing what to do with it.
I like to honor her yarn with like a next level project.
Yeah, same.
Right.
I also bought it on the silk yak. So you know, you can't use it for a blanket or anything. It has to be a next level pattern, and it has to be an out there beautiful thing that you can show off, but then I can't show it on my skin because my skin looks green. So it's definitely not a dye problem, it's an Anna skin problem. So that's why I actually end up not buying a lot within Australia, which is a bit sad, I guess. But I definitely buy most of my stuff from Megan from Rainbows and Sprinkles. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you know, easy for me because I can pick it up because she's right here. But also just because she makes the most neon, bright, fun colorways, and those I can wear. Like anything that's like bright, hot pink, you know, kind of stuff I can wear. My skin can really handle. And then overseas, I buy a lot overseas. So I've actually bought the Woolly Mama Advent for the past probably 5 years, 6 years or something every year. Love it. She does a lot of bright colors, fun colors. She does a lot of pastels, but she does combine them with pops of bright, so then that works as well. I love pineapple yarns in America. I don't know, you should know.
I don't know that one.
No?
I don't know that
pineapple
one.
yarn, I love it. Love the Discreet Unicorn, has beautiful bright colours. In the UK, I love Kate Celine. We've actually just spoken about her before.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
So I actually last year, or maybe it was the year before, made my own advent with her minis. So I just basically went into her mini section and just ordered 24 minis. I just chucked them like in a bag to pull one out every advent.
Oh, that's fun.
On top of every other advent. Again, she does just super bright and colourful rainbow colours, you know, just bright colours, and that's what I love. So
I'm gonna give you one Australian one.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know, but My Creative Garage. She does some beautiful.
Never heard of it.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I thought you're Australian. We'll take it offline.
Perfect.
I think it's Vanessa.
What was it?
My Creative Garage.
Okay, yeah.
Does beautiful, bright, neon. But you're gonna love it. My Creative Garage.
Oh, okay. Wait for the order. Because I find it really hard to find actually. So
I'm so happy that you.
I want to get
my
my phone now.
Oh, sorry, I have it.
It's like, where's my phone gone? But see, I didn't think that was possible. Considering how small and tight our community is really over here. I didn't think it was possible that you wouldn't know anyone yet. So I was still wondering. But it's the same. The other day I found Peach and Paige, which makes crochet hooks. Never heard of it before. And then I found her through something else, and I looked at the page and I was like, how did I not know about this? How is it possible that I didn't know about this account and this person any earlier than now? Like, how, you know, same. I find like our community is so small. How is it possible?
I know. I had the same thing with because I love knitting needles and sets of knitting needles, and I found these handmade ones out of Vermont, which is in New England, which is where, well, I'm originally from New England, Massachusetts, not Vermont, but it's between here and there. That's close enough geographically, right? Like, but it's called Dyka Craft. They're handmade in Vermont. Like, how did I not know that was a thing? Anyway,
is it wooden ones?
Yes.
Yeah.
And interchangeables. So just like, well, it's definitely high on my list. The next set.
Yeah. And see, that's what I think. Like how, even though we have all this new social media and internet and Google and whatnot at our disposal now, how is it still possible that we don't know everything?
I know, right?
Yeah, I still, like, even now, like, I had people coming in, you know, or I have people coming in for workshops or things, and they bring stuff, you know, they bring, like, oh, you know, I bought this and I bought this yarn, and I look at it and I go, who's this dyer? Never heard of them. This is amazing. And then, you know, I immediately put them on my Instagram and, like, find them and follow them, and, like, it's just amazing that even though we have all this at our disposal, we still... It's just so much uncharted territory.
I know, learn something new, right?
Yeah, exactly. And this is why it's great you do what you do, because you bring all of these things out. And then, you know, like now everybody's going to know about those knitting needles.
Yeah, yeah, right?
So that's why we need you.
Leave some for me.
Yeah. You need to, like, get in quick now.
I know, right? Anyway. Yeah. All right, so where can viewers find you? I know you're on a bit of a hiatus.
Yeah.
But
with yarn dyeing wise, yeah. So best obviously is the website is always there, so that's www.stitchcraftandwizardry.com.au. That's always there, even though that was on a little bit of a hiatus only because I needed to make changes, but with the shop and everything, but it's back online now. It only was a couple of days. And then obviously my biggest one is Instagram. I've actually deactivated Facebook during this time now, because as you probably know yourself, it's very, like, having to keep up with the website, email, Instagram, Facebook. The business suite, which, you know, is supposed to help businesses, actually makes it worse because it just puts another thing on the list that you have to check every day.
Yeah.
So, like, it's just a lot to try and keep on top of while you're working at the same time. And like I always said, like, with the business, you know, even when I was still dyeing, but also now, it really, the social media side of things and trying to create content, trying to follow up on all the messages, all the comments, all the likes, all the, you know, all of that kind of stuff, actually takes up 70% of my day, rather than that 70% of my day that I should be spending in the dye studio and, you know, doing things. And this is kind of like one of the reasons that this hiatus now has come into play, because I was literally running out of time. Like, I was getting up at 4:30 in the morning, sitting down straight away to study, to do bookwork, to do, you know, everything, and I would not go to bed until like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, but I'd be trashed at 10:30 at night because I'd been go all day long just to try and keep up with all the demand of dyeing, photographing, putting stuff on the website, replying to people, you know, advents, all of this kind of stuff. At the same time as single parenting and, you know, doing like all of that kind of stuff. So, so the social media side, that's why I've discontinued or like deleted or like put to sleep, invisible. It is now Facebook, just to cut out one of the extra things. So if you only have Facebook, I'm really sorry, but you have to go to the website. But I think anyway, Instagram has really taken over from Facebook, especially in our in our niche market. I think Instagram, because it's so much more focused on visuals, photos and reels, has really taken over from Facebook. Like, no one really uses Facebook anymore for that kind of stuff. So I don't really think that it's going to annoy a lot of people. Hopefully, if it does, I'm really sorry, but I just can't keep up. So Instagram is Stitchcraft_and_wizardry. And then the website is, I did mention it before, www.stitchcraftandwizardry.com.au. And best to get in contact is always email, because on Instagram, I don't know if you have that too, but I miss a lot of the messages on Instagram because it goes too quick. So the notifications disappear too quickly. And then they just end up somewhere, 150 notifications down, and I haven't seen them.
Yep.
So email is owlpost@stitchcraftandwizardry.com.au. So they are the best ones.
Okay. Now, the final question, because it's perfect pairings. Do you have a favorite beverage that you partake in while you craft?
Yes, definitely. Tea. Normally I run on caffeine, because life is hectic and I've got kids, and so normally I run on caffeine, but not because I enjoy it. So I drink coffee all day long, but I don't actually enjoy it. I don't actually like the taste, and really just drink it for the effects of keeping me awake. So when I get that relaxing knit time,
Yes.
it will definitely be tea.
Mm-hmm.
I do like my gin and tonic.
Mm.
I'm not very much of an alcohol person so I don't enjoy a lot of alcohol. I like wine, totally lost on me, don't like it. I will have a cocktail here and then, but I wouldn't have them at home pairing them with my knitting. So it's definitely tea for me to go with my knitting. I think it comes back to coming from a country where it's always cold.
Yes.
So it's the coziness of it. I think the coziness of tea. I've actually got a fireplace in my house, which was the first thing I had put in when I built my house was the fireplace. Even though I don't actually need it because we're in Australia and it's hot all the time. But at Christmas, I put the aircon on and the fire because I want the fire visual to go with Christmas because that's how it is at home. And then I just put the aircon on to counteract the fireplace. But yeah, so I think the tea kind of just ties in with that coziness of knitting.
Yes.
Is that yours as well?
Yes.
Yes.
I think so. I do. I will love a gin and tonic.
Yeah. Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
We should have brought some gin and tonic to listen to you. What were we doing drinking coffee? Oh, maybe it's a bit too early. But and you have to drive.
I do.
Oh, maybe it was a good idea then, being the
Yeah.
responsible people.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, Anna, thank you so much. This has been really, really fun.
Thank you so much for coming to visit me.
And if you have enjoyed the content for this episode, please give the episode a thumbs up and click the subscribe button so that we can reach more people, not only in Australia, but perhaps internationally, and get some recognition for the amazing talent like Anna that we have here in Australia. And thanks so much for joining us. And until next time, happy knitting.
Thank you. Bye.